What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G. Now, as always, if you do want to learn more about either phone individually, be sure to check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G, we're getting a 6.6-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED display with a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 390, and a 19.5:9 aspect ratio. With the A23 5G, we're getting a 6.6-inch 120Hz PLS LCD display. This phone also has a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 400, and a 20:9 aspect ratio. So overall, these displays are really similar for the most part. The only real difference here is that with the A34 5G, the AMOLED display is going to give it a bit of an advantage. With an AMOLED versus a PLS LCD, the colors are a little bit nicer, the brightness is better, and the viewing angles are better. So if you're outside in the sun, for example, the A34 5G will be a bit easier to see. And again, the colors are a little bit nicer. So if you're consuming a lot of content, like watching videos, for example, things should look a bit better on the A34 5G. But again, either way, both displays are really good. So if you do want a nice display for consuming content, you're really not going to go wrong either way. Now for storage, with the A34 5G, we're getting 128GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion, and with the A23 5G, this phone has 64GB with microSD card expansion as well. So clearly here, the A34 5G does have quite an advantage, having double the storage of the A23 5G. So if storage is a bit more important to you, if you're someone who's constantly downloading all kinds of apps and games and stuff like that, between the two, you will definitely want to go with the A34 5G. But keep in mind, with the A23 5G, 64GB, while not really being amazing, is at least acceptable. And if you're not doing a ton with your phone, if you're just more of an average user, then as long as you're mindful of what you're doing on your phone and you make sure to offload stuff like your photos and videos, for example, onto a microSD card, then with the storage on this phone, you should at least be okay. But again, if storage is more of a priority for you, then between the two, definitely go with the A34 5G. For security features, both phones have Face Unlock and they both have fingerprint scanners. With the A34 5G, it's right here in the display, so definitely more of a premium design. And with the A23 5G, it's on the power key. But starting with the A34 5G, let's give them a try. There we go, one more time. And there we go. And now for the A23 5G. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So as you can see, both were real fast and responsive, no issues at all. And again, both phones do have Face Unlock too, so if you want to use that instead, you always can. Now taking a look at the camera setups here, with the A34 5G, up front, we got a 13 megapixel selfie camera. Then on the back, we got a triple camera setup with a 48 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. For video, this phone has a max recording quality of 4K in both the rear and front cameras, so great to see there. And then with the A23 5G, up front, we got an 8 megapixel selfie camera. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. Then for video, the A23 5G has a max recording quality of 1080p in both the rear and front cameras, so unfortunately no 4K here, but considering this is more of an entry-level device, not too surprising. So overall, both phones do have really good camera setups, and for more average casual use, you're really not going to go wrong with either. Both have ultra wide cameras and macro cameras, and really good photo quality too. So yeah, I really have no complaints. But that being said, between the two, the A34 5G is definitely a bit better, which definitely does make sense considering this phone is a bit newer and it's a bit higher end. So if you are taking a lot of photos, maybe that's more of a large portion of what you're doing with your phone, maybe you want to get those 4K videos or just better photo quality in general, then in that case, the A34 5G will have an advantage. But for a more casual user, keep in mind, the A23 5G is definitely not bad either, so it will still get the job done. To give you an idea of what they can do, first, here's some pictures taken with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G. So overall, great photo quality here, and no matter what you're using your camera for, whether you're taking pictures for a more professional purpose, or maybe you're just taking photos to send to friends and family, or using Snapchat where the photo quality doesn't really matter a whole lot. Regardless, for most situations, the A34 5G will get the job done no matter what. And then here's some pictures taken with the A23 5G, same kind of thing. I do think the photo quality here is really good. Again, maybe not quite as good as the A34 5G, but at the same time, I feel like in real life when you're actually using the camera, especially at first glance, it's not really that much of a noticeable difference. So if you are just taking pictures for like social media, maybe a few casual Instagram posts or something like that, the A23 5G will get the job done just fine. So at the end of the day, unless you're specifically looking for the best camera between the two, or you want to record 4K videos, as far as the camera is concerned, you're really not going to go wrong with either phone here. Now when it comes to RAM and processor, with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G, we're getting 6GB of RAM with the Dimensity 1080 processor. With the A23 5G, we're getting 4GB of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 695 5G processor. Now for the overall performance between the two, I will say there definitely is a significant difference, with the A34 5G being quite a bit faster. But despite this, the A23 5G is not a slow phone by any means, and for more casual daily activities like web browsing, social media, watching videos, and even some light mobile gaming, the A23 5G will get the job done just fine. And for the average user, you will get a pretty good experience with this phone. But that being said, again, the A34 5G is significantly faster. Maybe not quite flagship level, but it's around the level of the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G. So performance-wise, this phone is really a solid step between your average mid-range phone and an entry-level flagship phone like an S21 FE. So if you are looking for that really good performance, but you still don't want to spend a ton of money on a higher-end device, then in that case, the A34 5G will be a great choice. Now I did run a benchmark test on each phone using Geekbench 6, and here are the results I got. So again, as you can see, there is quite a difference, with the A34 5G being a bit faster. But again, the A23 5G is still really not a slow phone. So for the average user, if you're not really going to be on your phone all day doing more demanding activities, the A23 5G will still get the job done. But again, if you do want the faster phone between the two, then of course, the A34 5G has a clear advantage. For the batteries, both phones have 5000 mAh batteries, supporting 25W fast charging, so no difference here, but keep in mind these are really good batteries. With a 5000 mAh battery, in general, you're probably not really going to need anything bigger than this. And I can tell you from experience, the batteries on these phones do last quite a while, so no matter what you're doing with them, if battery life is really a priority for you, either phone will be a great choice. And the 25W fast charging each phone has definitely doesn't hurt either. Now keep in mind, to fully utilize this, you will of course need a 25W fast charger, but when you do have one, these phones do charge pretty fast, so if that does matter to you, definitely keep this in mind. Now for the software, both phones do have Android 13, with the A34 5G having come with it, and the A23 5G, despite originally having Android 12, did get the update around December. And in addition to this, knowing Samsung's software support, with either phone, you can expect several other major updates in the future. So in general, if you do like to have the latest version of Android, you're not going to go wrong with either phone here. But if you're planning on keeping your phone for a bit longer, the A34 5G will have a slight advantage, because since it did come with Android 13, it will be getting Android 14, 15, 16, and 17, whereas with the A23 5G, it'll be getting Android 14, 15, and 16. So not really a huge difference. I feel like there are a lot of people who probably don't keep their phone for over 3 years anyway, but if you do want to maximize the updates you get, then again, the A34 5G will have a slight advantage. Another thing to keep in mind here is that both phones do have NFC, so if you like to use tap and pay, you'll be happy to know you can do that with either phone. But one feature the A23 5G has that unfortunately the A34 5G doesn't is a headphone jack. So as you can see, the A23 5G does in fact have a normal 3.5mm headphone jack, whereas unfortunately the A34 5G again doesn't. So if you have a normal pair of wired headphones you want to use, then definitely keep this in mind, because you can technically use them with the A34 5G, but you will have to use an adapter. Whereas of course with the A23 5G, since it does have a normal headphone jack, you can just use them like normal. But in conclusion, which of these phones is better? In general, on paper, the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G, being not only a bit newer, but also a bit higher end, is definitely the better device here. The displays are pretty much the same size, but when it comes to image quality, the AMOLED display does give the A34 5G a bit of an advantage. It also has double the storage, a much faster processor, a noticeably better camera that can take 4K videos, and being a year newer, it will get one more update in the future. But despite all this, for a lot of people, I feel like the A23 5G actually might make more sense. Now, don't get me wrong, the A34 5G is actually a really good deal, being around $327. And for this price, even though it's not officially launched in the US, so you will have to get it factory unlocked, you're still getting quite a bit of value here. But on the other hand, with the A23 5G, since most US carriers do offer this phone, if you are in the US, you will find some pretty good deals on it. And even though it doesn't have quite as many features, I've seen it go for as low as $80. So sure, while at full price, the A34 5G is hands down the better choice here. If you're really looking for an affordable 5G phone, then in most cases, for the money, the A23 5G is most likely going to be a better deal, especially considering with the A34 5G, again this phone goes for around $327, and for that same price, at least in the US, you can pretty easily get something like a Samsung Galaxy S21 FE or a Google Pixel 6a, both of which are definitely a step up from this phone. So overall, again, on one hand, at full price, or if you can find a really good deal in the A34 5G, which I imagine will eventually happen over time, then in that kind of situation, the A34 5G is technically the better device between the two. But if you really want to maximize the actual value you're getting for the money, and maybe you really just need something for more basic daily activities, so you want a good display, decent performance, and a nice camera, then in that case, the A23 5G is most likely going to be the best choice between the two. Now once again, if you want to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalibus Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.